Okay, so buckle up because this deep dive, we're really jumping into the deep end, right?
Let's do it.
With this Manual of the Supernatural for Difficult Times.
Right.
And I know the title alone, right? It can sound maybe a little much for some people.
Right.
But you said you wanted to explore this intersection of faith and prophecy and like what's happening in the world right now.
Yes.
And this book really does that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It does. And what I find so intriguing about it, it's not just sort of laying out like a doomsday prophecy kind of thing. It's offering a different rule book
Oh, okay.
for reality itself
Okay.
that most people, the author would argue, are completely unaware of.
Right. So it's like this hidden dimension almost that's operating at the same time as our everyday reality.
Absolutely.
And we can tap into it.
That's the whole premise.
Okay, so that's where this idea of the kingdom within comes in.
Yes, the kingdom within. And that's what's so powerful, because if we can access that, then theoretically we can access these different, these supernatural abilities that he's talking about.
And he really gets into the nitty-gritty miracles, angelic encounters. It's, like we said, a supernatural boot camp.
It is?
So we've got to address the elephant in the room,
Oh, yeah.
the whole difficult times thing.
Right, right.
What are we talking about here? Give me the rundown.
Well, the book doesn't mince words.
Yeah.
It suggests that we're talking global upheaval on the scale of, the days of Noah and Lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so before you kind of write it off as another doomsday prophecy,
Right.
he really connects those ancient stories to the anxieties that we have in the modern world.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Yeah. So, like, give me an example.
So, for example, the rise of these very powerful leaders who have these huge followings and almost a blind allegiance.
Okay.
He connects that to this idea of the strong delusion, which is basically this mass deception, right? Where it's so convincing, this deception that's going on that it leads people astray.
And that sounds familiar, right? With misinformation, social media, everything.
Exactly.
It's like we're living it.
Exactly. And the pace of technology, I mean, that's another one. I mean, look at technology can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
And so it really kind of feeds into this idea that we're on the precipice of something huge, something that's going to test us spiritually, and it's going to force us to really confront these anxieties that we have.
Right. And that's where this whole two witnesses thing comes in, right?
Yeah. This idea that there are going to be these individuals that emerge who can combat that deception.
That's right, with extraordinary power.
Okay, so we've got this huge, almost biblical backdrop that's playing out.
Yeah.
But it's not just about bracing for impact, right?
No, it's not.
It's about how we tap into our own inner power to navigate all this.
And that's what I find so empowering about it, is that he's not just laying out a prediction and saying, hey, this is what's happening, doom and gloom. It's like, no, but this is how you can work with it. This is how you can thrive during this time.
Okay, so it's hopeful in a way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
It's a call to action.
Okay.
It really is.
So how do we tap into that? How do we tap into that kingdom within? What does that look like practically?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you should ask that, because the book really is a manual in that sense.
Yeah.
He lays out these spiritual practices
Okay.
that you can do to strengthen that connection to that inner power.
So give me the rundown.
Okay, so prayer, right?
Okay.
But not just like thanks for the meal
Yeah.
kind of prayer,
Why
like
not?
really intentional, persistent prayer where you're actively seeking guidance
Okay.
and you're trying to align your will
Gotcha.
with God's will.
So it's like instead of praying for a good day, I'm praying for the strength to like get through this work presentation or have a difficult conversation.
Exactly. Or for wisdom
Yeah.
in a certain situation, right?
And believing that those requests can be answered.
Exactly. That's a huge part of it, is that belief.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. And that kind of leads us to this whole other topic, right? Which is miracles.
Yeah.
You talked about Elijah, right?
Earlier, these biblical figures.
Right.
And the book seems to say that these things aren't just random. They're not just flukes, that they're somehow we can participate in that too.
Like we can actively participate in miracles. And it goes back to that whole kingdom within idea.
Okay.
The author argues that, we can become conduits for God's power.
Yeah.
And that miracles are essentially, that power working through us. It's not that we are conjuring it up ourselves. It's that we are aligning ourselves with something that's already.
Oh, that's good. I like that. So it's almost like surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
Yes, exactly. Surrendering that limited perspective.
Which is, that's the work, right? That's the work.
Right, exactly.
But he gives you a framework, it seems. He does.
For how to actually cultivate that trust.
Yeah, like he really encourages readers to look for evidence of the kingdom within in their own lives.
Hmm.
So it could be just little things, right? Like a moment of synchronicity where it's like, oh, wow, that's weird.
Okay.
Or a dream that felt super vivid and real and meaningful. Or even just like a sense of
Oh,
peace
wow.
that
Yeah.
washes over you in the middle of a really like chaotic time.
Interesting.
And it's like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
he's saying those are little glimpses
Okay.
into that other dimension, into those different rules that we were talking about earlier.
I see. Okay. So we're not just talking about paying your taxes and being a good person. We're talking about some really out there stuff.
Yeah, and he doesn't shy away from that at all. I mean, he gets into angelic encounters, dreams that reveal future events.
Okay. All right. This is a lot, even for me.
Right.
I'm like, whoa. Okay.
It's a lot to take in.
It is a
Yeah,
lot.
but it's essential,
Okay.
he would argue,
Yeah.
especially to navigating these difficult times we're talking about.
Right. Right. Okay. So we're going to have to figure out how to navigate all this.
We are. We're going to figure out how to apply it
Yeah.
to our lives.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Because it's one thing to talk about it.
Right.
It's another thing to live it.
Exactly. All right. So big picture.
Okay.
Where do we go from here? What are we supposed to do with all this?
Right.
So we've talked about a lot. We talked about this kingdom within, the difficult times, these two witnesses. I mean, there's a lot to process, right?
There is a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
But I think, for me, the biggest takeaway is that this isn't about just accepting some kind of predetermined fate.
Right.
It's really about empowerment,
Okay. I like that.
recognizing that we have a say. Even in the midst of all this uncertainty, there's this source of strength, and there's guidance available to us.
It's not just us being tossed around. We're not just leaves blowing in the wind.
Exactly. We have a choice in how we engage.
So what's the first step?
Well, I think a big part of it is deepening that relationship with what he calls Yeshua.
Right. Jesus.
Right. And I think it's important, whether or not maybe that terminology resonates with you or not.
Right.
The core message there is recognizing something greater than ourselves
Okay.
and actively seeking to align with that.
And that's where that prayer comes in. Yeah.
The declaration of faith. Yeah, he offers a very specific prayer. But again, even beyond the specific words, it's about making that choice
Yeah.
to live from a place of faith.
So it's not about just checking things off a list, right?
No, not at all.
It's more of an internal shift.
Yeah, an awareness.
Yeah.
And he argues that by doing that, we tap into this resilience, this clarity.
Yeah.
And it allows us not just to survive,
Right.
difficult times,
Right.
but to thrive.
To thrive.
To
yeah.
thrive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as we kind of wrap up here, I'm left with this call. If we even just entertain the possibility that some of this is, might be onto something,
Yeah.
how does that change how we see the world?
Oh, that's such a good question. And, I don't have an answer for you, but that's something I would really encourage you to sit with. Does it shift your priorities? Your understanding of the challenges we're facing?
Yeah.
Does it make you want to look for the two witnesses, so to speak, in your own life?
Yeah.
Those voices of truth.
Yeah, because it's not just about getting through it.
Right.
It's about shaping what comes next, right?
Exactly.
And it starts with each of us.
It does.
Making those choices. Where are we putting our energy? What are we putting our attention on?
Absolutely.
That's powerful stuff.
It is powerful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been really thought-provoking. And for everyone listening, we'll leave you with that. Keep seeking. Keep asking those questions. And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.